Jacob, I understand that this may be a morbid subject to start this week off with, but I have a request to make of you.
What is that?
Now, hear me out, right? We're all gonna die one day. It's an inevitability.
Okay.
Everyone's gonna die, except for me, obviously. But everyone else is gonna die, and
Yeah.
typically at funerals, people read out speeches. But the dead guy never hears the speeches before he dies, obviously. And so
No.
I have for you a little speech right here that I'm going to read out at your funeral. And I'm going to read it out to you.
You're going to read at my funeral?
I'm 100% going to read at your funeral. I'm going to be the only one in attendance.
I figured I would be reading at yours, but okay.
And so when I read at your funeral, this is what I'm going to read, and I'm just going to run it by you first, just to make sure it's okay. Is that fine with you?
I feel like this isn't going to be good. You're going to say something mean here.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles Long. With me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
Yeah, you really got me there. I really thought it'd be funny if you just played this at my funeral, and now I'm speaking at my own funeral.
Yeah.
I guess I should say some words then. Jake was, he was me. He did this podcast with Charlie.
Yes, he did.
And it was a complete waste of time. Okay. Let's get into the pitch here.
That's what we love to hear.
So I've got something for you here today. A little different than what we normally do, because I'm already going to set you up with the fact that it is a part one.
Oh, it's a part one. Okay.
Yeah, I was writing pretty long, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna need to pump the brakes a little bit here and go part one, part two. Part one
series or part one movie?
Part one limited series.
Okay.
It could be a film. I'd have to write it a little bit differently, but it could be a film. I started writing it as a movie first, but then there's more fun you can have with episodes, because I can name the episodes, and also I can have stark endings, where just shit happens and then roll credits.
Yeah, of course. I love a stark ending, roll credits.
I can't really do that in a movie, because you can't. I mean, I guess you can roll the credits in the middle of the movie, but people have done that a lot recently, and it's kind of cliche now.
Yeah, and if you just have a stark ending and then your movie ends, that's not really a satisfying conclusion for a film, even if it is a part one. So you're waiting minimum 2 years for the second part.
Yeah, I know. That sucks. I mean, that's the problem with the first Dune movie. That's the problem with the last Intro to the Spider-Verse movie. It's the problem with a lot of any movie that has a sequel that is not like a, it's a very much a necessary part of the story.
Yeah.
Anyways,
here we go.
I've got more for you here, because this is a show. It's called The Red Light Express. Great name, I know. Thank you.
I do like that name. That's a good name.
So it is we're in the 50s here, in Denver, Colorado. The setting mostly revolves around a diner, but we'll get into more in a second. Our main character, his name is Brian Laughlin. Last names aren't really important, but for some reason I wrote him with the last name. An early 30s detective, so his age, early 30s, who has recently been fired from a small-town police department for improperly filing evidence.
Ooh,
his
harsh.
life seems like it's gone out the window, and he started a fledgling private detective agency that he runs from his apartment on the second floor of a corner diner.
Of course. You are... I love it.
The diner is... we'll get into it. It's like there's an actual apartment there. It's not like he's just in the attic of the diner. There's an apartment above the diner. But it's a little noisy because the diner's right below.
Yeah, but he can get coffee and a slice of pecan pie at any time of night.
I like that you said pecan pie, because that's a very good pie.
It's the best pie.
Pumpkin pie gets too much credit. Apple pie gets too much credit. Pecan pie.
Yeah, pecan pie. It's the bomb.
Next we have Slick, who's the building owner. Slick, as I said, he's the landlord. A little bit of a slimy guy, kind of weaselly looking, on the smaller side. And Brian, the reason he lets Brian keep that apartment above the diner is because Brian let him go on some illegal gambling charges. So Slick was holding a gambling ring, and in like the back of one of his buildings, and Brian, uncovered it, but he let him pass on it, which Brian uses lightly against him to have this apartment above the diner, which is a good apartment, good location, but he doesn't pay rent for it, so that's the reason he gets to keep it. And Slick is obviously probably a little bit resentful for this. Next we have Jim Wild. Jim Wild. He is a little bit rough around the edges. He's the cook at the diner, owner of the diner, guy in charge. He's friendly with Brian, but he's not the kind of guy that takes slights well. So like a little joke, he doesn't. He takes all jokes seriously. Not someone you can mess around with.
Yeah, very stoic kind of a guy.
Well, he's the kind of guy like he could make jokes about you.
Oh, okay.
Like I could say, hey Charlie, you could say to me, Jake, you're a dumbass for, I don't know, parking
so
my
many
car
reasons.
slightly off or
a million
betting
and
money
one
on the wrong
reasons.
site, sports team or whatever.
Yeah.
But if I said like, oh Charlie, you're fucking stupid for, I don't know, not for tucking in your shirt, because who fucking tucks in their shirt?
Yeah.
Fucking loser, Charlie, tucking in your shirt. What a loser. He would take that very seriously. Think about it all night.
I would only
talk to you the next day.
Yeah, I would tuck in my shirt every time I saw you. Doesn't matter what shirt I'm wearing. Even if I was naked.
Very, very serious slight right there.
I would pretend to tuck in a shirt. Yeah. All right. So he can give it, but
lastly,
he can't take it. Yeah. Okay. This guy sounds like
he give it, but he can't take it. Lastly, we have Sophia. Sophia is Brian's wife, or girlfriend, sorry, not wife. She works long hours at the courthouse, so she works at the courthouse.
Oh, okay.
That's how they met. She's very hardworking, never really asks for anything, and is not much of a communicator. So in the relationship, like if she has a problem, she does not really talk about it. She just sort of dwells on it.
Yeah, she throws herself into her work, or she, starts a new project or whatever.
So like you and me in our podcast.
Yeah, exactly. When we have a problem, I throw myself into the airlock, and you throw yourself into the work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've been pressing that button and launch you out of that airlock so much, but it doesn't seem to work.
It doesn't work. I clip the wires on your side just because I know you would.
Just in case.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Anyways, the first episode, it has a title, obviously, because why not, is called The Red Right Hand.
Such a good
song. The scene
song.
opens with the ringing of the doors bell. Yeah, you'll notice their song titles for the names, because that's fun. You know what? Why don't you want to do song titles?
I love song titles for names, especially if the song is in the show, or if the song itself, like Red Right Hand, is a reference to something, which then may come back into the show.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So the scene opens with the ringing of the doors bell as Brian pushes open the entrance into the diner. A young kid runs into him and pushes Brian to the side. Brian tells him to watch where he's going and goes on into the diner where he sits down for a drink. The cook, Jim Wild, obviously, as I explained, gives him a coffee, which Brian is, a little annoyed because there's no whiskey in it.
Oh.
Obviously, he's it's not late in the day. It's probably like mid-afternoon, but he wants to. He's already tired.
He gets it started early.
Hey, we're talking about a detective in the 50s, and this is a TV show. I mean, of course he's gonna drink.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it works.
Probably fought in the war.
Yeah, there's an unwritten rule that he has to drink. It's just required in any sort of detective medium.
And he has to smoke either cigarettes or a pipe.
Beyond them, a fight breaks out between a girl and her boyfriend. The girl splits on the bill, and the guy doesn't have enough money to cover it. We get the feeling that the guy is like, she's like the, this is like a, not a Romeo and Juliet situation. Well, like the girl's wealthy and the boy is a little bit poorer in this relationship. And so she was going to have, basically dad cover the bill. And the boy, he's left with the bill when she splits. And he doesn't have enough to cover it. He asks Brian for $1. And Brian, obviously, being a sleazeball detective, says no. And throws, and Jim, the cook, throws the kid a mop to pay it off. Tells him that he's got to work until 9.
I was going to say maybe...
So he's working all day, basically.
Maybe Brian, he says, sorry, mate. Sorry, buddy, I don't have $1, but here you go. And he flicks him a penny. And it lands on the ground in, in the dirty floor. And the guy, looks at him really annoyed and, pissed off. But he also really needs that all the money he can. So he, goes and scrounges on the ground to get the penny. And Brian's just sipping his coffee. Look at him. Maybe Brian's topping up his coffee with a little bit of whiskey, While he's looking at this kid on the ground.
And just after telling the kid that he doesn't have it, he only has a penny, he gives Jim $5 for a pie or something.
Yeah, exactly. Whole pie just for me, just to be a dick to this kid.
Damn, that would be a little much. Anyway, Brian then gets a booth and starts working on his case. It's about a fairly simple ordeal. By the way, during this we have Brian is a narrator as well. We can hear his thoughts as he's sitting down.
Yeah, he's probably got a cool
stuff. That'll be prevalent as we go through the stuff.
Cool grizzled guy.
So we need someone with a good voice.
Yeah.
I don't know who's got a good voice. We need like a John Hamm. John Hamm plays Brian.
John Hamm. I like that. John Hamm. I love John Hamm playing out of character. He's not. Because John Hamm usually he either plays really cool, slick dudes or he plays morons. And I like John Hamm being a sleazeball, Not Mad Men style.
Well, I picked John Hamm because he's in a new show, an animated show. I think it's called Grimmsburg. I watched a couple episodes, but he plays a sleazeball detective in that. So I was like, oh, why not?
Yeah.
And in that he's more comedic though. He's a shitty dude and he's a bad father and it's a joke. In this it'd be a lot more serious.
Yeah.
And he's not as much of a Brian is not a sleazeball. He's just kind of he's just a little bit of a dick, but he's kind of overall he's a good person. More like your average person. Just that's the way it is. So he's working on the case. It's a fairly simple ordeal. It's a missing person case, but it's an older lady who wants her grandson found. And what's weird is that the parents won't say anything. They don't they won't talk to him. They won't.
Okay.
They don't want to help at all, and they won't report it to police. So he's having a tough time with this. He doesn't have a whole lot of leads. He's mainly just working through the evidence that he's got right now of the dates and stuff when the kid left and information about the kid. Trying to figure out where he could have gone. And as he's eating a free grilled cheese sandwich that was just brought to him by Jim, because they're still kind of buddies.
Yeah.
Slick slides in, so the property owner slides into the booth and asks about rent. Brian tells him that they've gone over this 1,000 times, and Slick tells him that he can't keep doing this. And Brian says that the rent is certainly worth 10 years in prison. There's clearly. This is letting you off easy. Slick's annoyed and he leaves and he's a little frustrated.
Maybe he references a file that he has from his old, his job in the police force. He kept the file. It's not in his apartment or anything. Because I do think it would be, it's a conflict worthy of exploration if Brian has this file and Slick is just kind of always looking for it. But Brian hides it. He's got a very good hiding spot, or it's he keeps moving it,
Yeah. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Outside, just outside the window, a fight breaks out. And Brian watches for a second until a guy gets smashed against the glass over and over and over again. So it's thick glass. It's not breaking. It's just, his head is getting smashed right next to Brian. He's trying to ignore them at first. Trying to focus on the work as the glass gets smashed next to him.
And just the crack.
I mean, not broken, but
I was going to say
maybe a slight crack in the edge of the glass, but it's thick glass. It's literally he's just hearing the thump over and over again, and that's bothering him because he's trying to work, and it's becoming too much, and so he decides to go upstairs. His apartment is just above the diner, as I said, but there's a back staircase through the kitchen. So there's like a main front entrance that he can go to. That's like nicer and more like, where all the apartments are connected. But there's also a back staircase through the kitchen that he can take, which, brings him up around through like the maintenance area of like the apartment building, and then he can slide into like the hallway and then into his apartment. And it's a nice place. It's got tall ceilings. It's a little musty looking, and there's a lot of empty space. He hasn't really. It's not filled out. Really, like it could use a bit more furniture. It could use more stuff on the walls. It's kind of empty looking, but it has tall, nice Victorian looking windows. So that's the neat part, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So is it like exposed brick style? Maybe I'm kind of thinking maybe Daredevil's apartment from Daredevil, the show, where it's kind of like
like that. Yeah.
It's nicer than you would expect it to be. It's a little bit more industrial, like maybe it was years and years ago. It was like a warehouse or something. And it's been retrofitted into like this sort of cool city apartment.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Part of the feeling that I'm hoping people get from this is that it's very much a guy's apartment.
Yeah.
It hasn't really... It's clear that he moved in, and he only has the bare essentials. And, that's the way he doesn't really care about getting anything else. So he sits down with a glass of whiskey and reads the paper for a little bit before getting back to work. His girlfriend, Sophia, comes in. She's very flustered and annoyed. And he realizes that he must have forgotten something, right? He, rushes to the calendar. He's like, is it our anniversary? No, it's not. She's upset at me, I think. And he's asked, but she's like, everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. But he definitely feels that something's off. And she quickly makes dinner while he works. And then when she sets the table, there's only one place setting. He asks about that. She says she has to go pick up something for work, and she'll be back in an hour, and she isn't hungry. He feels like something's off, and he's a little worried, but he doesn't really have the time to figure it out. He just doesn't, he knows how she operates, so he's not really going to push too much more. And she leaves, and he starts eating the lovely pot roast that she made for him, and he hears a knock at the door, assuming it's his wife. He clears his throat. He gets ready. He's like, all right, I got to apologize. Whatever it is I did wrong, clearly, I just got to apologize and pretend like I know what it is. And he opens the door, starting to apologize, but before he can even raise his eyes to look who was at the door, he's shot and killed.
Ugh.
Bang, boom, dead.
Wow.
Episode 2, Happiness is a Warm Gun.
Another great song.
Brian pushes through the door of the Red Light Express with the same speed as his apartment door. He falls back from the gunshot. No, it's not the gunshot, it's the kid running into him. Freaked out but confused, he gets up and stumbles to the bar where Jim asks what's wrong with him. Brian says he doesn't know. He just had the weirdest daydream, he guesses, when he was coming home from work. And then an argument ignites behind him, and he mouths the word no as the kid looks at him asking for money. Because it's the same argument. It's the guy arguing with his girlfriend. He says no, but in response to the kid asking him for money, but he just sort of mouths it because he's confused. He's like, I already said this, deja vu sort of situation. And he stares at Jim as he gives the kid a mop and mouths along with the words as Jim says exactly what he said yesterday, work till 9 to pay off your bill. Flustered, Brian goes to the booth and pulls out his case file. He searches through everything. Everything is exactly how it was before, layered in the same way. He knows, he's seen everything. He remembers going through all of it exactly the same way. Slick comes over, and before Slick can even, start speaking, he tells him exactly the same thing. We've already gone over this. I'm not paying the rent. I've got the file still, as you brought into the story. And just as he decides to get up, he's still a little flustered, and he jumps as soon as the face hits the window because the guy beating up the other dude outside. And he's he's a little panicked. He's confused. He doesn't know what's happening. He goes home, and his immediate thought as soon as he gets in the house is, oh shit, I got shot. And he grows and grabs his gun. And so he's got a revolver and a shotgun. He hides the shotgun behind his desk in the sort of the main family room. And he puts the revolver in his the back of his pants. And when his girlfriend gets home, Sophia, she starts preparing dinner, and he starts like he's sitting on the couch, like not even working, just like looking at her, like thinking maybe it was her. Like, is she mad at me? Is that why she did this? Did she kill me? Mm-hmm. He quickly gets up and starts helping with dinner, and he's continually telling her like how much he loves her, which he's thinking about in his head. He's like, well, this is true, but also he's terrified that she's the one who killed him.
Yeah, I mean,
and,
I would be.
When she leaves, yeah, I mean, clearly, he's like, did my wife fucking, or my girlfriend kill me, like, because I, upset her somehow?
Yeah.
She leaves, for the same reason as before, and he moves the recliner over to the door, not like, a couple feet away, and he sits in it with a shotgun in his lap, waiting. And when he hears the knock at the door, just like last time, the doorbell rings. Now here's the knock. The doorbell rings. He says it's open. As the door opens, he fires a shotgun blast, blasting through the wood. And just for good measure, he unloads both barrels, just rapid succession, making sure whatever on the other side of the door dies. Then he drops the shotgun down, grabs the revolver from his back pocket, and walks to the door. He moves the splinters to the side and opens it all the way. And he feels a cold metal pipe touch his head, and bang. He wakes up again, knocked over by the kid this time again. This time in a different angle, because he got shot somewhere else. So last time he just fell back. This time he falls to the left.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got shot in the head. Mm-hmm. So now we go into a montage of him trying to kill this man that keeps killing him, but somehow in every, situation, whoever this person is, man or woman, is always in a different place and manages to avoid his traps and everything he tries to do.
Oh, that could be a fun scene of him just like trying all these things, and he gets shot from across the street like by a sniper through the window. It hits him in the head. He attacks the whole he set up a whole bunch of booby traps in the hallway, and all of them go off, and then he opens the door and no one's there, and then standing behind him is someone with a shotgun. Fun stuff like that. I like this. I love a good time lapse.
We never see. Yeah, I love seeing somebody die over and over again in like a time travel story. It's always funny. And we'll, every time we see this happen, we never see the person at all. We always just see the barrel of the gun. That's the most we'll see before he gets shot. Well, yeah, I was thinking, we could have one where he's like in his neighbor's apartment or like a supply closet down the hall, and he'll wait till he hears his doorbell ring and he'll pop out of it ready to shoot the person. And again, some person will somehow be behind him and they'll shoot him in the head. Just constant different traps and every little thing that, always springs and gets him. Finally, the way this episode ends is that he decides to not get home that day. He's like, fuck it. I just die every time I go home. And he just waits at the booth in the diner. And everyone's, it's getting real late now. It's like 10 or 11 and everyone's going home. He lives right upstairs, so Jim doesn't mind, leaving him at his booth. He's like, I just, when you finish up, just wash your dish and, head upstairs. He's like, yeah, it's fine. That's fine. And he's like nervously waiting. Just sitting at the booth. All the lights are out now. He's just sitting there waiting, just watching the street, waiting for somebody to go up. But he never sees anyone go up to the apartment. Doesn't even see his wife come home. And as he's sitting there waiting at the booth, he sees the clock. He was like looking at his watch, and he sees the clock strike the exact time that it hit when he heard the doorbell. And he feels a cool barrel in the back of his head in the booth behind him. Bang.
Bang. And what time is it?
Episode. I didn't really think of a time. We'll say 11:30.
Okay. Well,
unless you could think of a somehow funny time.
Well, I was thinking okay, he keeps hearing you work till 9, you work till 9, you work till 9 every time he does it, and my thought was that is gonna have something to do with it,
Oh, okay. Maybe 9 o'clock is when he gets shot.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, is it the kid? Is it the girlfriend? Is it the dad? Maybe this kid is connected to someone, So that was where my thought. If that's not involved at all,
we'll make it 9. We'll make it 9 because we'll get in. The kid is somewhat relevant.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I say we'll get into it. We'll get into it in part 2. You won't get the more information.
That's exciting
about the kid in this part. Episode 3, the last episode in part 1 of my little the Red Light Express. Mm-hmm. Episode 3 is called Bang Bang, and then in parentheses, My Baby Shot Me Down. That's a Nancy Sinatra song. Mm-hmm. Brian is at the booth. It's daytime. He's got case files all flipped over. He's not worrying about that case anymore. He's worrying about a new case, the case of why he's fucking dying every day, and who wants him dead. Is it his wife? Is it Slick? Is it someone at the police precinct? He has to follow all the leads. He has to know who's doing this. He's freaking out. He's tearing at his hair. He doesn't know. He can't think. And he's like, all right, I just gotta focus. I'm a detective. All right. I got to think about this like a detective. I can't think about this like someone who's a victim. I got to think about this like I'm investigating my own murder, not as the guy that died. And he's like, okay, who's the first person that we would think that killed me? He's like, okay, who was it? Who was the most likely to kill somebody? And as you probably know, mm-hmm. The person most likely to kill you in your life is your wife or your
significant other.
Husband.
Yeah.
Statistically, that's the person who's most likely to kill you. He's like, okay, that's what I've got to investigate that first. I've got to figure out why I'm dying. I got to stop dying, and I got to end this loop. First he follows his wife, and he stalks her at her job, and he's asking her coworkers about her slyly under the guise that he's planning like a surprise for her birthday. They're like, that's weird. Like, why are you planning a surprise so early for her birthday? It's like 3 months away. And he's like, really just trying to get really early on this.
Yeah, I'm trying to really blow her socks off this time. Really trying to wow her.
And they're kind of surprised with this because, he's starting to learn that she's upset with him. And she only really talks about it at work to people. Mm-hmm. Because she's upset with him because he's aloof and he's not helping around the house. And at first he thinks she's cheating on him with this defense attorney who comes in a lot. But he finds out that's not true because the defense attorney is banging the secretary.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna. It was either
he'll walk in on them.
It was either banging someone else or is gay, or it could be both.
You know what? He's banging the male secretary.
There you go.
That could be good. He's like, oh, because the idea is that he's gonna walk in on them, and be like, oh fuck, okay, not my wife.
Not my wife. All right.
He's gonna walk in and be like, I've caught you, and then be like, oh shit, not. Never mind. Sorry.
Wow, you're really flexible. And then he closes the door.
I didn't know you could do that.
Huh. He just takes out his notepad, starts writing shit down.
Or he's horrified at what he saw. He sits down, takes a smoke. I didn't even know that was possible.
He had 3 legs.
That was, oh my god, that was like some biblical shit, right there. I didn't see that.
That's some Sodom and Gomorrah shit right there.
I need a cigarette after that. I wasn't even involved. He's learned that she's just upset for him being aloof and not helping around the house. She's not cheating.
She's not gonna murder him.
So devastated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's she's not. No. Well, I mean, he still thinks she's murdering him. So he's devastated. He's like, okay, my wife wants to kill me because I'm not like a terrible husband, but just not like a great husband.
Yeah.
I'm a mediocre husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, all right, I've got to really kill it. So he does his best to set up the best day possible for his wife. He surprises her at work with flowers. He takes her to a movie after work, makes dinner for her. But still, before dinner, she gives the same excuse that she's not hungry and she's supposed to do something at work. And he breaks down in the moment and asks her why she wants to kill him, why she has to go to work. And she tells him that she's like, you're crazy. I'm not trying to kill you. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, well, if it'll make you feel better, I'll stay. I'll stay here tonight. And he's like, okay, this is new. It's never been someone else with me when I've been killed before. So a few moments later, the doorbell rings. He tells her not to open it, but she's like, no, what's wrong? He's like, no, please don't open it. And she opens the door. Boom, shut. Brian dies, falls on the ground, and she runs to him and cradles him. This time he doesn't die instantly, and she cradles him and screams as he dies. So that is the end of the first part of the Red Light Express. Probably not the wife, I don't think.
Probably not. If I was going to put my money down on a person, it wouldn't be the wife.
Who was your guess right now of the people that you've witnessed? Who do you think is the murderer?
I think it has to do with the man who was getting his head slammed into the wall. You know, I think that he, you know, he saw Brian's, like, aloofness, and he's like, fuck this guy. But then you throw the time loop into it, because, like, I figured, you know, that the initial murder was kind of like just a act of passion. You throw the time loop into it, it makes me think that there's some sort of mythical thing going. It's either magic or highly advanced technology, right? Those are really your two options. And this doesn't strike me as an extremely magical universe thus far, so we'll see. But you did say that...
I will be fair to you, so you don't have any crazy expectations, you and the viewer.
Yeah.
This is more of a Groundhog Day...
Okay.
...time loop than a... I'm trying to think of another movie with time loops.
Yeah.
Looper? No,
Looper. Looper's kind of a time loop.
No.
What's it called?
I can't think of a movie with a time loop.
The Endless? The Endless is a movie with a time loop?
A more popular movie that people have heard of?
Oh, no. You're trying to get me to... Russian Doll. That's a TV show with time loop.
It's not even... I can't... I've never seen that either.
Me neither. I've never seen it either, but I know it has a time loop in it.
How come... With the amount of shows we've pitched with time travel...
We have
How come we can't think of a movie with time loops in it?
Time loop...
Palm Springs. Have you seen Palm Springs?
Palm Springs. There you go. All right. Magic Cave. Yeah.
That one's just a cave. Yeah, so it's not like there's no magic cave situation. It is more of a Groundhog Day situation.
Okay.
I won't explain more than that, but that is it. And your pick for the murderer is just to make sure we have it. It is the guy who's getting his face smashed in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's what
I just wanted to finish this off with casting because we picked John Hamm, obviously. So I feel like we should pick at least the other three main people, which is Slick, Jim Wilde, and Sophia.
Yeah.
And the boy who's got the mop boy.
I think Slick, right? You say Slick, and I think initially, first thought is really skinny guy with a few tattoos, you know, slicked back, greasy hair. He's kind of like losing it a little bit at the top. Like male pattern baldness style, and Italian, right? And so, like, my first thought, I'm going Adrian Brody, but that might be a little too old.
I think he's too cool to be Slick.
Yeah.
But, you know, actually, I can kind of see it. The issue is that I don't know how tall Adrian Brody is, and I definitely want Slick to be shorter than Brian.
Okay. Well, I was kind of thinking, you're a Peaky Blinders fan, so I was kind of thinking imagine his character from Peaky Blinders, you know, with all the tattoos and the rings, but he doesn't have a nice suit on. He's just got like a wife beater. He's got a big gold chain, you know. But he's still.
You know who could be good is the other guy from Peaky Blinders, the older brother.
That guy. I don't know his name, but I know.
I don't know his name either, but he'd be all right too.
I'm looking up the Peaky Blinders.
I'm good with either of those though.
Yeah.
As long as I'm good with Adrian Brody if he's shorter than John Hamm. I think John Hamm's is tall, but I think Adrian Brody's is tall too. So.
Paul Anderson.
Jim Wilde. Paul Anderson.
That's the guy who plays the older brother.
Paul Anderson. This is
yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson. Jim Wilde, so the cook. I'm thinking of like a bigger guy.
Big, burly dude.
You know,
yeah.
More like a Dave Bautista, but doesn't have to be him.
Yeah, I was thinking somebody in worse shape. Like a big, burly dude, but he's got a big tum. You know, he's got like big arm hair. I'm thinking guys from The Sopranos, you know? Like Fat Paulie or whatever. Yeah. Like that kind of guy.
Yeah, just a big guy. A lot of arm hair, big dude.
Big dude. He could kick your ass, but he's not going for a run. You know?
Yeah, that's the thing. This is, like, when you're talking to Jim and you make a little slight against him, the implication is not that he's gonna, like, you know, he's gonna, like, sulk over it or something. It's that you're gonna get your ass kicked.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? That's what you're afraid of, is if you accidentally make fun of him, is that he's gonna fucking pound your face into the counter.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then last we have Sophia, the wife. Oh, and also the mop boy. Mop boy has to be Timothée Chalamet because he's in everything.
Yeah.
I think it's a requirement by Hollywood.
He's very important. to the whole thing.
Yeah.
To the movie industry, apparently.
Sophia, we'll say it's Vanessa Kirby because she just got picked as what's her name?
Sue Storm. Yeah.
In Fantastic Four.
I don't know.
That's why I was thinking of her.
Yeah, I like her.
So that's our cast. That's the Red Light Express Part 1.
Part 1.
Look forward to Part 2.
Whenever that may... We're still waiting on Res Publica Part 4, so, we don't have any fucking clue.
I'll do Red Light Express, not, next week, obviously, because that's you, but the week after.
Yeah, all right.
Because I have an idea.
You have an idea.
Res Publica, I still need to read the book again, so that's, that'll happen whenever it happens.
And I do have an idea for next week. I haven't written it yet, but I do have an idea, and I'm pretty excited about it. Do you want to know the title?
Oh, you do?
A little sneak peek.
Sneak peek.
For the audience. It's Priscilla, Great Mother of the Wastes. That's my title.
It's a long-ass title.
I know.
Is it Priscilla or is it Priscilla?
Priscilla, like the name Priscilla.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
I was trying to look into that, but I thought maybe there's some deep thing there, but it was the name. Okay.
Priscilla, Great Mother of the Wastes.
You're like, how do I come up with a new name? I'll put an A instead of an I.
No, I'm not that creative.
I do that all the time. It's terrible.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me has always been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Cloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat. And remember, we will be here next week with a brand new televisual series for you to imagine and enjoy. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I love you all.
I don't.